except for a couple of candlestick lines, we'll look at hammers and shooting stars. But net, a single candlestick line is not that, a single shadow is not that important. Where they become important is if they're confirming a support or resistance area, because what's happening is if you have a series of long upper shadows right near the same resistance, if the market's strong, what should happen? It should close near the highs, right? If every time it gets to near a resistance area, it pulls back, it's visually showing us, and this is what the candles shine at, visually showing us what's going on between the bulls and the bears, the psychology of the market. The market's rejecting higher levels. So if there's a group of 2 or 3 long upper shadow candles near the same resistance area, I would certainly take notice of it. And this slide happens also to be what's happening with the real bodies. Smaller and smaller, right? Now here we have a couple of black real bodies. When you get our daily newsletter illuminations, you'll see that we have ST, short-term trend. ST, we abbreviate. So in this scenario, we would have, say this, this is the pound. We have these candle lines. The trend would be down. Short-term trend would be down. If we added these lower shadows, the short-term trend would be down neutral, /neutral. They wouldn't be up. They wouldn't even be flat because it's mainly making higher closes. But this mitigates some of the bearishness. Okay, so we always have to look at shadows. So here, for example, we have a series of long lower shadows near the same support area. Time after time after time rejecting lower price levels. Same thing here. In fact, beside these upper shadows, what early indications did we have, even with the first few candle lines? Spinning top, doji, right? Now, during the break, somebody asked me about the spinning top and the doji, and we talked about how I view them the same. And the reason that becomes important is because, remember the rule that we had with the doji as a potential resistance area based on the close? All right. The same thing is true with the spinning top. I don't do this in equities or commodities or interest rates, only in Forex. If we have a small real body, a very small real body, because we view it the same as a doji in Forex, we could make a resistance area. Okay, this is exclusively Forex, so this would be resistance based on a close. If this was an equity, I don't use spinning tops as a resistance area. And some of you may recognize some of these signals. We'll look at this later. A bearish, the black wrapping around the white, a bearish engulfing pattern. There's an evening star variation. And we'll get to all these patterns in a couple of minutes. Yes?
How do you view that spike just to the right of the doji? Do you just disregard that, or is that...
Over here, this right here, the spike?
Well, the one to the left of it, but either one of them.
Okay, I'm not... So we have a resistance area. The question is, how do we look at the spike? And this spike?
Either that spike
or the one before it. Okay, the question is, how do we view these spikes above the resistance area? And the answer is, did it close above resistance? No. So that doji is still a resistance area. But in the real world, you may not have been, if you were short on that doji or spinning top here, the only way I would be short on the spinning top is if it's confirming something else. But let's say you're short there. You have to be willing to risk on a close above here. We'll look at, a lot of the stuff I say we'll look at later, but I can touch on it now, is what you can do is, let's say you can't risk, having a stop on a close is almost like not having a stop. Correct? By the time the market closes above a resistance area, what if it closed on the highs here? Okay, this is the euro. Let's say it closed here, or let's say it closed all the way over here. Are you gonna, and if you're short, you're going to hold into there? Probably not. What we're going to look at in a couple of minutes is using the concept of risk-reward, knowing what your risk, or what your potential reward is, and then kind of going backwards, and then using that to set your stop. So in other words, don't worry about, we'll look at one with specific numbers now. If you were short here, once again, let's say it confirms a resistance area, whether it's a Fibonacci retracement or a Bollinger Band or high. Let's say your target is all the way down here. Okay, we have, again, for those more familiar, we'll go through this, a bullish engulfing pattern. If this is your target, that's a great target, and you're looking for, let's say, a 3-to-1 or 2-to-1 risk reward, you can then, you know what your target is, and then you could do, if you're looking at 2-to-1, you can do half that amount and set that as your intraday stop, because that's the most you're going to be able to risk to make it a 1-to-2 risk reward. And we'll look at some actual numbers on that. But there's a long answer to a short question. As long as the market doesn't close above this resistance area, it's still valid resistance. Okay, here we have a series of upper shadows. Okay, and I circled in blue a series of upper shadows to show, gasp, it doesn't always work. You know, this is the real world. It's not going to be 100%. There's a wonderful Japanese proverb, you may have heard me say it before, it's just so great. The Japanese say even monkeys fall from trees. Okay, nothing is 100%, not even the candles. You know, here the upper shadows worked fine in the red, and the blue it didn't work. And that's why we always have to talk about stops. And when we talk about money management, we will talk about stops. Yes?
At that point, at the blue circle, where your shadows did not work, could you have used the breakout as a continuation of the long trend?
Okay, the question is, the blue circle here where the shadows did not work, could you use the breakout as a continuation? So what she's saying is the breakout here as a continuation. Normally, I would say yes, but and actually, let's look at this here. Then the question you have to ask yourself, is this enough of a breakout? Okay, I would probably say no. All right? I would like to see more of a breakout than that. But normally, if it does close above it decisively, maybe 20 pips or something, depending on the market, I would then say it was a bullish breakout. Now, I had mentioned before that single shadows aren't normally important. The exception is the hammer, which we'll look at now, and the shooting star. And the hammer is the bottom reversal signal. And this is the same in Forex and non-Forex. And these are your criteria. The hammer and the next one we'll be looking at, the bearish counterpart, the shooting star, are called one-sided candles, one-sided shadows, because the shadows appears on one side of the real body. So the hammer is a very long lower shadow candle. The real body can be black or white. The main thing is we want that lower shadow at least twice or 3 times longer than the real body. We visually want to see the market rejecting lower levels. The Japanese say the market's trying to hammer out a base. The actual Japanese word, and I don't speak Japanese. I wish I did. I could have saved a lot of money. I paid all the translations. I mean, before I did the book, you know, I laid out all the money myself for the translations. I had no idea that the candles would become so popular. It was working so well for me when I was doing the trade recommendations. You know, I figured, what the heck, even if I was the only one to use it. But the actual Japanese word is takori, T-A-K-U-R-I. And I'm sure I'm pronouncing it wrong. But my translator told me that it means that you're in a river and that you're feeling for where the mud is. You're trying to grope for the bottom. That's a great analogy. The Japanese are so wonderful with their metaphors and their analogy. And that's what we're trying to do, grope for see where the bottom, where the low of the market is. So this is a hammer. And by the way, it can have a little bit of an upper shadow. Whoops. And if you want a kind of a definition, it would be 10% of the lower shadow. And the reason I can give you some of these specifics is because I have some candlestick recognition software. And it'll be out probably in the next month or so. By the time the DVD's out, it'll be out. But it's really neat. It's the only, how many of you have candlestick recognition on your computer? None of them have my input. I bet you they even forget about the trend. I bet they call a bearish engulfing pattern if it comes after, or we'll look at this later. They don't talk about trend. I'm going to have software that's going to have candlestick recognition, and it's going to allow you